Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Okay, let's dive right in. Today we are looking at a really fascinating book. It's called Tell Me Everything, a Secret Service agent's proven strategies for earning trust, revealing the truth, and communicating with anyone. Now, this is basically a communication playbook, but it's coming straight from the world of high-stakes interrogation, and trust me, it has some ideas that are absolute game changers. Right off the bat, the book just hits you with this super powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea. You know, we all think that being a great communicator means you have to be this slick talker, always having the perfect response. But this book, it argues the complete opposite. It says the real power, the real secret weapon, is learning how to listen.
And let's be real, we have all been there, right? You want your partner to open up, or you need your team to be totally honest about a project, or maybe you're just trying to get your kids to tell you what's really going on. But instead, what happens? You get shut down. You just hit this wall of silence and misunderstanding. Well, the book calls this a fundamental failure to connect, and it argues that a lot of the time, we're actually the ones causing it.
So who exactly is teaching us all this? Meet Brad Beeler. And his resume is, well, it's incredible. We're talking 25 years in the U.S. Secret Service. This is a guy who protected presidents like George H.W. Bush, interviewed world leaders, and trained other federal agents. And get this, he was one of the agency's top polygraph examiners. His whole job was literally about getting to the truth. So his experience isn't from some textbook. It's from decades spent in rooms where one wrong word could have huge consequences.
So with that kind of experience, what's the one big principle that Beeler learned that just changes everything? He calls it the trust equation. And this is really the core of the entire book. Real communication isn't a performance. It's not about what you say, it's about the environment you create. If you want to master communication, you first have to master the conditions for it. And the secret ingredient for that perfect environment, it's this right here, psychological safety. This is that feeling, that condition where someone feels so understood and so completely safe that telling the truth actually feels easier than hiding it. And this isn't just some abstract theory, it's a principle that's been proven to work everywhere, from high-stakes polygraph rooms to high-pressure boardrooms.
I love this slide because it shows the shift we all need to make so clearly. Look at the old way. This is what most of us do without even thinking about it. It's like an interrogation. We're trying to get information to win the conversation. But the Secret Service way, it's all about understanding. It's about creating safety and listening, not to argue back, but to make the outcome better for everyone involved. It's a complete change in your objective.
Okay, so the theory is powerful, I get it. But how do we actually do any of this? Well, let's get into the agent's playbook, because this is where we see how all this theory gets built into real practical strategies that you can literally start using today.
One of the most useful and memorable tools from the entire book is something Beeler calls the buddy system. And this is not just some clever little acronym. It's a very structured technique that he actually developed to systematically lower a person's defenses and just make it easier for them to tell the truth. So how does this thing actually work? Let's break it down. First, B is for blame outside factors. You might say something like, look, the pressure on this project has been absolutely insane. Next, U is for understand their feelings. I can totally see why you felt you had to do that. Then, D is diminish the severity. This one is so important. You say something like, honestly, a lot of people would have done the exact same thing in your shoes. The second D is develop their rationale. You help them explain their why, like, you were just trying to protect the team, weren't you? And finally, Y is for your side. You get on their side. Listen, I'm here to help you solve this, not to punish you. You see how that works? You're not excusing what they did, you're just building them an exit ramp from their own lie. And this is another brilliant, super simple tactic. Instead of asking those sharp yes or no questions that feel like an attack, you use these open-ended prompts like, tell me, so tell me more about that, or explain to me how that happened. It's such a small shift in language, but it changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. You're not demanding answers anymore, you're inviting them to share. And that unprompted truth, it usually follows right behind.
So you might be thinking, okay, this stuff is great for catching spies or something, but what about my actual life? Well, this is where the real genius of the book comes in, showing how these agency-level techniques translate directly to our everyday missions.
I mean, the applications are pretty much universal. If you're a leader, this is how you build a culture where people aren't afraid to admit they messed up. If you're in sales, this is how you build genuine trust that's about more than just a transaction. And for parents, this might be the key to finally getting your teenager to actually talk to you. These aren't just interrogation tactics. They're tools for building better relationships. All right, so if you only remember one thing from this entire explainer,
Please let it be this next point. This is the single idea that everything else in the book is built on.
It is really that simple. People do not respond to pressure. They respond to empathy. The moment someone feels that you are genuinely trying to understand their perspective, their world, their feelings, the walls just start to come down. Your curiosity is always going to be more powerful than your accusation. That's the secret.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about in your own life. The next time you're in a difficult conversation, what might happen if you shifted your goal away from getting information and toward giving understanding? What truths might be waiting for you on the other side? Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.